Welcome to the webinar. Okay, so let's get started then. Welcome everybody. This is the Grow Yourself to Grow Your Business webinar, part of the Kleeneze Fresh Start Group trainings that I run. And this is one of a series of 8 webinars that I run. I run one a week, every Wednesday night, pretty much every Wednesday night, unless I'm unavailable for some reason. So there's 8 in the series. Probably takes maybe 9 weeks to do them all if I kind of miss a week. And they're all recorded. So I'll explain towards the end, especially for those new new to the webinars, where you can watch the recordings. And as you can see, the one that we're doing this evening is number 6, Grow Yourself to Grow Your Business. We start off, number 1, 2 and 3 are all about the catalogue side, so getting started, your first few weeks and so on. 4 and 5 are about team building and supporting your new team members, so that's great for Amanda, who's obviously been supporting Christine recently. And then tonight, next week and the week after are more about the kind of the personal development kind of skills. So hopefully they'll kind of make sense as we get into it, but as I said, because they're all recorded, if you've just started, like Christine for example, then once you see where the recordings are, you can go back and watch number 1 and 2 just to sort of, if that's better for you at this time. Great, Daniel, well done. Okay, so let's see what we're going to talk about. So you know how to put your catalogues out, hopefully, if you've been in the business a little while, and how to build a customer base. If you've been on some of the other webinars, you know a bit about how to find and sponsor somebody who's interested in earning a bit of extra money, so you've started doing a bit of team building. But what else do you need to build a successful business? Because actually, once you know how to put catalogues out and deliver orders to your customers, and once you know how to introduce somebody into the business, that's pretty much all you need to know. But not everybody will be successful. So this webinar covers the next steps, if you like. So firstly, it talks about following the system. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to just go through a few bits of essential understanding, so things that hopefully you will be aware of, but if not, it'll just point you in the right direction. And then I'm going to talk a bit about getting started on your personal development, and I'll explain a bit more about that in a moment. And some recommended reading. There's some fantastic books and audio cassettes, I almost said, CDs out there that you can read and listen to. So let's just get started there. At school, if you were copying what somebody else did, you found somebody who was really smart and you copied their work, then that's cheating. You're told off, you're put in the naughty corner. But actually, at Kleeneze, that is exactly what we recommend you to do. Find somebody who is successful and copy what they do. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is a business where copying success is a great way to your own success. So we talk about copying a system, following a system. And what is that system? Well, actually, it's what you've been learning on these webinars. Now, you may not have followed them all yet, but as I said, they're all available to you. So if you go through each of the webinars, by the time you've done all 8, you will know the system. Because basically, Kleeneze has been in its current form for about 20 years. Kleeneze has actually been around since 1923, so 91 years now. But in the current form, delivering catalogues and so on, it's been around for 20 years. And there's a lot of really, really successful Kleeneze distributors who have built huge businesses in the last 20 years. So if you want to be successful, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. But that doesn't mean that you can't add new ideas. What I would recommend is that you find somebody who is successful and copy them. So that could be your upline. Sometimes your upline is quite new as well. So there'll always be somebody in their upline, the person who introduced them or the person that introduced them, who will help you become successful as well. But also, if you go along to your local meetings, the regional meetings, the millionaires and so on, you will meet successful people there. And pretty much everyone that I know at those meetings will be really happy to help you. They don't have to be somebody directly in your upline. No, I've got some of my most important information that's helped me get to where I am by chatting to people sort of in other areas of the Kleeneze business. So if you hopefully agree with that fact that you don't need to invent everything, what kind of understanding do you need as part of that understanding the system that I talked about? So I'm just going to go through a couple of things now that in different areas of the business, but they're really useful for you to know. And the first thing is it's really useful to understand the concept of network marketing, or sometimes called multi-level marketing, MLM. This is the kind of business that Kleeneze is. Obviously, we deliver catalogues to our customers to do our own retail. Other businesses do that in a different way. But the network marketing part of the business is where the really successful people work in. And network marketing is basically the idea that if you introduce somebody else to the business, you will get paid bonuses by Kleeneze because of the sales that they do. And that structure in a business is called network marketing. And there's two great resources that just explain that to you in a really simple way. So the first one is a book by a chap called Don Failer, and that's called The 45-Second Presentation. And the second one, and this one's my personal favourite, excuse me, it's actually a CD, not a book, and I do recommend that you get the CD and listen to it because he's got such a great way of putting things across. A chap called Jim Rohn, who's passed away a few years ago, sadly, but there's a CD called Building Your Network Marketing Business. And it's not specific to Kleeneze, it's about network marketing in general, but he's just got a great way of kind of explaining how these kind of businesses work and how to be successful in them. What else do you need to understand? Well, obviously, specifically within Kleeneze, it's useful to understand the pay plan, the different bonus structure, what's possible and so on. But it's a very big pay plan. You know, even the guy who's the most successful, the most well-paid business distributor in the business, a chap called Bob Webb, is not at the top of the pay plan yet. So you don't need to know the ins and outs of all of the different steps. However, what I would recommend is that you know at least a couple of steps ahead of you, so you know what you're aiming to. So everybody gets 21% commission. Oh, hello there, John. Welcome to the webinar. Glad you could join in. Everyone gets a 21% commission from all of their orders, but then on top of that you get your volume bonuses, and those are the 10%, 13%, 15% and so on, right the way up to 24%, which is when you become a gold distributor. And then as you start to build your team, you can become a senior distributor, an executive distributor and so on, and there are many steps. So if you're new in the business, just have a chat with your upline about what does the 10% bonus mean? How do I get to 13%? What do I need to do, and what is that worth to me? Because once you understand those, and then you can kind of see how to get bigger bonuses, it really opens your eyes to sort of different ways of increasing your income in the business. And another important thing to understand about Kleeneze is it really is a numbers game. And in both sides of the business, the retail side and the team building side, basically, when you're finding customers, the more catalogues you deliver, the more customers you will find, the more orders you'll get, and the more you will earn. It's very simple. You know, there's no kind of shortcut to sort of saying, oh well, I'll go around and I'll find all the houses that have got a special sign on the door and just put the catalogues through those. You just need to cover as many houses as you can, because you never know who's going to order from you. So really, the numbers are so important. You know, the more catalogues you put out, the more you will earn. And it's the same with team building. When you're starting to do team building and you're generating leads, the more leads you find, the more people you can present the information to or send the information to, the more people you will join your business, and the more people that are in your business, the bigger your income will be. So that's really important, and those two parts, the catalogue side and the lead generation side, I cover more in those particular webinars, but understanding the numbers is really important. And on the team building side, that Jim Rohn CD that I mentioned earlier has a great way of kind of explaining all of that. Now, personal development. Personal development is probably the most important part of being a Kleeneze distributor. Now, when I first joined, I thought probably the most important part was the catalogue, or getting the catalogues delivered. And then, once I got into team building, I thought, oh, the most important part is to build a team, because then you earn more money that way. But actually, as a person, what I found and what opened my eyes when I first started looking into it was all the different sides of your own sort of person, your own kind of emotions, your own skills that you can work on and become a different person by doing these, by learning a bit and by reading and so on. And I talk a lot more about personal development in the last webinar. Well, actually, the next one, 7th and 8th. But I'm going to give you a little heads up and a little start to it this evening. As a little example, one of the things that I came across in a book I was reading was this little phrase: if you only do what you know you should do, you can achieve anything. And I think Kleeneze is a classic example of that. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Once you've learned how to put your catalogues out and deliver an order to your customers, once you've learned how to find somebody who might be interested in earning some extra money and you've introduced them to the business, you probably have 95% of the skills that you need to be really, really successful. And the only thing that stops you from achieving that is yourself. Because if you only did what you know you should do, then you can be hugely successful. It's not through lack of skills, it's through lack of motivation or determination or perseverance. There was another one here talking specifically about personal development. You'll see Jim Rohn mentioned a lot in my different webinars, because I've learned such a lot from him. Jim says, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. So if you spend 18 hours a day putting catalogues out, running yourself into the ground, you will build up a very successful retail side of your business. But there may be smarter ways of doing it. So education in personal development, self-education and so on is really, really important as well. So make sure you spend time working on yourself, not just time working on your Kleeneze business. And I said there, become a sponge for information. I mean, in a way, I'm speaking to the converted here, because you're all here tonight because you want to learn a bit more about how to be successful in the business. But don't just rely on webinars once a week. Try and get to your local meetings. You learn so much at the meetings by listening to other people who have been in the business for a while. So if you can get to the local meetings, I really guarantee it. And just look everywhere for information. And I call it there plug into personal development. And what does that mean? Well, it means reading some books. I'm going to give you some recommendations in a moment. Watching things. There is so much on YouTube these days that it's so easy to find. You could easily spend 24 hours a day for the rest of your life watching interesting stuff on YouTube, and still never get to the end by the time you leave this mortal coil. But anyway, so lots and lots of stuff on YouTube that you can watch. Listening to stuff as well. I actually really like listening to CDs, audio CDs. I find that easier than reading at times, and you can make good use of time when you're in the car then. So if you've got a CD player, you can just listen to a good audio CD and make good use of that time. And webinar 8, this is number 6 if you remember of the series. Number 8, which is specifically about personal development, we'll talk a lot more about that. If you can't wait a couple of weeks to when I do webinar 8 again, the recording of the last one is available, and I'll show you how to get to that in a moment. And just plug into all of the meetings. One of the things that I used to find was sometimes I would go to a meeting and towards the end of it I'd be thinking, well, kind of most of what I've heard I've known, most of the people here I kind of know, and I don't feel inspired. And then somebody will just say something, and it's something that I've heard before from somebody else, but they just say it in a particular way or in a particular context, and suddenly it's like a golden nugget. It's like, oh my God, you know what? I've never thought of it in that way. And it just enlightens you, and you then go back and you're kind of re-enthused, or you've got some extra information that really helps you go somewhere. And that golden nugget is so, so important. Louisa, I'll come back to that at the end if that's okay. But if anyone else has got any thoughts in the moment and wants to add a chat on there, feel free. Okay, so this is a biggish list, but I'm not going to go through it all in details, of books that I recommend you get. So don't go out tomorrow and buy all of these. Pick one or two, read them, pick the next one, read them, pick the next one, and so on. The ones I've highlighted in blue, I'm going to talk about a bit more in a moment. I'll just pause a moment on this slide so you can kind of have a quick look through any of them. If any of them sort of attract your attention, then obviously you can go off and get them. And obviously, if you wanted to make a list yourself of all of these, then once it's recorded, you can come back and then pause the recording on this page, on this slide. Sorry. Right. So the ones in blue, as I said, I'm going to go through in a bit more detail now. So this was the CD that I mentioned earlier. It's called Building Your Network Marketing Business by Jim Rohn. I think it's about 45 minutes, something like that. It's probably less than an hour. And it's all about philosophies, I suppose, is a bit of a grand word, but it's on network marketing, how it works, and how to understand the kind of the structure of it, and how to get good at it, I suppose. And it's probably the first personal development CD that I listened to, and it's probably still my favorite now. Basically, anything by Jim Rohn is fantastic. This is another one. If you prefer to read books than to listen to CDs, then this is a great one, called 7 Strategies for Wealth and Happiness by Jim Rohn. And it covers a variety of different things. It's all about goal setting, which I find particularly useful. It's about, it talks a bit about investment, understanding your finances, which a lot of people struggle with. And it talks a bit about your philosophies in life. Now that sounds really grand. And again, I'll ask you to bear with me a moment until one of the next webinars, because I talk about your philosophies a bit later on, and hopefully that will kind of make sense then. Right, the next 2 books are very similar in a way. So I would say get one of these. You don't necessarily need to read them both. So the first one is called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and the second one is called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And the gist of it is that successful people are not the people that made one successful huge decision. It's the ones who made little decisions every day, and it's the slight edge in doing that every day, and the compound effect over a period of time. And they show this little graph here, and one of the examples they quote is, if you're trying to lose weight, for example, then every day at I don't know, 11 o'clock, whatever, you have a bit of a snack, and your choices are, I'll either have an apple or I'll have a chocolate bar. Now, you might think that, oh well, look, today I'm feeling a bit down, I really need a bit of a pick up, I'm going to have a chocolate bar. And that, it's not going to make a huge difference. If you have that chocolate bar today, tomorrow when you weigh yourself, you'll probably hardly notice the difference. So, it doesn't really matter, does it? If it didn't make any difference today, I'll have another chocolate bar tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after. But you can guess what happens. If you keep doing that, your weight gradually gets worse and worse and worse. Whereas, if you just choose the apple instead of the chocolate bar, the next day, you're not going to be any lighter significantly. You're not going to sort of suddenly feel much healthier, but over a period of time, as you get healthier and healthier and healthier, then that sort of those little disciplines, those little decisions that you're making make a huge difference. And it's exactly the same in all sorts of different areas of life. In the Kleeneze business, for example, it's not going out one day and delivering 1,000 catalogues. It's going out every day to deliver 100 catalogues that makes the difference. Okay, next book. I really like this book. Some people struggle with it. It's quite an old one. It's written by a chap called Dale Carnegie back in the 1930s, and it's kind of around the time of these large American corporations. And Dale worked for some kind of sales company, and he worked out a really great way of kind of growing his business and his influence. And that was just basically the gist of it is to be nice to people and to be interested in them. And it's amazing what you get back in return. And that's actually a really great way to run your life anyway, rather than always thinking, oh, what can I get out of them? How can I sell them something? It's just be interested in people. And actually, people buy from people. So once you're interested in them and they see that you're interested, they'll be interested in you, and they'll be wondering what you've got to offer them, and then they'll buy from you. And it's kind of almost without having to ask them. So that's a really good book. I really like that one. It's a little bit old, as I say, but the content is valid today, certainly. The next one, I mentioned Darren Harvey in the previous slide, and this is another one that's my favourite. Now, it may not suit everybody. It's called Design Your Best Year Ever, and it's all about goal setting, basically, and it's a workbook. It's not a book that you just pick up, read through to the end, and then finish. Basically, what he says you do is you start at the beginning of a year, and it doesn't have to be a calendar year. You know, you could start now in October and say, right, for the next 12 months, this time, next October, I'm going to be debt-free, or I'm going to have that brand new car, or I'm going to have enough money to save up for that holiday of a lifetime in Australia. Whatever it is that you're wanting, your goal. And basically the way it does it is it explains about going from where you are today to what that goal might be, and then breaking it down in a structured way so that you can identify all the little monthly targets, the weekly kind of chunks, and the daily steps that you can take to achieve that goal. And I just found that a really, really good way to achieve goals and to sort of break big, exciting goals down into the daily disciplines that you need to follow to achieve those goals. And the last one, and Louisa, just briefly just seeing your thoughts there about you're really nervous about knocking on doors. This is something that I would recommend you have a little look at, because it really does make a big difference, I think, to fears and worries and things like that. So this is a book that I've read just recently. It's called The Chimp Paradox by a chap called Steve Peters, as you can see there. And it basically talks about how your brain works. And why people have emotions, and why you can get frustrated about things, worried, angry, emotional, nervous, all those sorts of things. And it really goes through some really useful ways of dealing with what you might call unhelpful emotions. And it doesn't say, not all emotions are bad. Obviously, love and joy and happiness and anger sometimes that are in the right place are important emotions and helpful emotions. But sometimes they're unhelpful and you wish you didn't feel that way. And this is a great book to help you deal with that. And I found this really, really useful just recently. So that's my last recommendation. Quite a lot in there for you to work on. So I wouldn't say go out and buy all of those books now. If you will know yourself if you're a good reader, buy one, read it, and then move on to the next one. So getting towards the end of the webinar now, we're sort of approaching the wrapping up point. I'm going to just check that some of you were all awake. Can you remember what I said at the beginning? Jim Rohn said, work harder on yourself than you do on your boss. Yep, okay, that's one way of looking at it. Anybody else remember? Job, Martin, yeah. Work, Louisa, very good. Linda, harder, yeah, than you do on your business. Yeah, absolutely, yeah, because I guess a lot of us here are not in a job, we're in our Kleeneze business. What it just means is work harder on yourself. He actually said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. But you're all kind of right there. Okay, of those books I was talking about, really interested in a bit of feedback from people. Are there any of you who have already been in the business for a little while that have read any of them that would recommend them to the new people? And for the new people in the business, were there any that I went through there that you thought, oh, that sounds interesting, I think I'll get that one? The last one, was it? Yeah, I've got to admit, I think you'll find that really helpful, I think. The Slight Edge, yeah, I really like that one, Linda. That's a good one. Yeah, Dan, I would recommend that one. That is certainly my favourite all time is the Jim Rohn one. The Chimp Paradox by Steve Peters is probably the one my favourite one that I've read in the last 4 or 5 years. Frog fishing. Oh, I haven't heard about that one, Garth. That sounds an interesting one. I think I'll have to investigate that a little bit. Frog fishing. Sounds good. Always interested in looking at new stuff. What else? Yep, the last one, Rose. Excellent. Yeah, Eat That Frog. That's a great one. If you procrastinate a bit, if you're always putting things off, the Eat That Frog book is a great one. Dan, to be honest, you can get them from all sorts of different places. I'm pretty sure nearly all of them will be on Amazon or a local bookshop. Certainly the Chimp Paradox, because it's fairly recent, you can certainly get them from pretty much all local bookshops. The Kleeneze, there's a couple of publishers that Kleeneze use. So yeah, Bids that Linda Canning's just mentioned there. There's the Bids web shop which has some books on, and there's another company called Knowledge is King, which has a website. And yeah, thank you, Sue. And they're often at the big Kleeneze conferences as well. Okay, great. So glad to have a bit of feedback from there. So what did we cover today? So we talked about following the system, the fact that there's no point in reinventing the wheel. We've got some hugely successful people in the business who've been doing this for 20 years and more. Find out what they do and copy it, and that's kind of what all of these webinars do. Talked a bit about essential understanding, and I've just kind of been through some recommended reading for you. So that's the end of webinar number 6. Next week is all about goals and attitudes. So a little bit about whether or not we think your attitude has anything to do with your success, and how to kind of motivate yourself by setting goals and achieving goals. And finally, I said at the beginning that all of these webinars are recorded. This one's no different. I'm just going to turn off the recording in a moment. But if anybody wants to look at any of the previous webinars or catch up on this one again, you can just view them all on YouTube. I've got a channel there. If you just go into YouTube and do a search on Chris Smith Kleeneze, you'll find them all on there. And feel free to subscribe to that channel, and then every time I add one on, obviously you'll get a notification, so you know there's a new video to have a look at. Right.